Hey Bookends! Welcome to a 10-minute book review. I'm 10. Today's book review is going to be on the Lost Apothecary. Can't really see it. By Sarah Penner. We like to start off every book review with a star point, as in out of 10 stars, how many stars did this particular book garner, and a rating, as in if this was a movie or a TV show, what would it be rated? So, starting off with a star point, out of 10 stars, this book gets a whopping 2 stars. It's not the worst book that Tu and I have read, but it's not the best. Then for a rating, this is definitely like a PG-13. I don't think that there's anything in here that would raise it to the level of an R. There is death discussed, but you don't really get to see it. The only trigger warning I could think of is suicide, but it's not suicide because life is so horrible. It's a means to an end to a particular situation. So, yeah. So, jumping right on in. The book has 3 protagonists. We start off with the first 2, which is Nella, who is from 17 something, and she is an apothecarist in England, and she is kind of like the woman who sold aqua tofana. She makes up different concoctions for wives to kill their husbands, or just for women to kill men. Essentially, it doesn't even matter if they are married to them or not. It's for the purpose of killing men. We also have Caroline, who is present day, so she's supposed to be like where we are in time. And she has just found out that her husband has cheated on her, but they had an anniversary trip planned, and I forget how many years they've been together, but anniversary trip planned, and so she takes the trip anyway to England. And so she's trying to figure out her life. Later on, we're introduced to a young girl. She's about 12, and her name is Eliza. And we meet her because her mistress has her go to Nella to get a concoction to kill the mistress's husband, because the mistress's husband is like just bent on sexually assaulting Eliza. Yeah, a lot going on. So when we meet Nella, she is this life-weary person. She does what she does out of a regard for protecting and helping women. She says that her mother was an apothecarist before her, and it was a women's shop. And so she basically created concoctions to help women through pains after birth, through female-centric elements, such as things as hysteria. That doesn't exist now. It actually never existed, but it was something back then, and it essentially, hysteria is another word for depression, I guess, but they were saying that women were being hysterical, and so we needed some sort of treatment for our hysteria. Not for the men to stop cheating on us, stop beating us, and stop treating us badly. No, it's definitely hysteria. But her mother would make up different things to assist with this, and other elements that were seen to affect women. When Nella grew up, her mother ended up dying, and from a sickness, an undisclosed sickness, and so she tried to carry on the apothecary work. Something happened to Nella involving a man, and that made her want to become the private murderess that she is now. So her mother's shop used to be like this big room with like 2 entrances, but she ends up cutting it, I don't want to say in half. Like the front part of it, she leaves as a decoy, essentially, to make people think that there is nothing in there but like a storage room, an unused storage room. She even has like a thing of barley out there, and sometimes rats will come eat it, but it's like rotten barley. And she built some shelves to kind of create another room in the back, and that's where she does all of her dealings, her death dealings. Now we fast forward to Caroline, who is in England because she wants to get away from her husband. They already had planned this trip because it's an anniversary trip, but she's like, you know what, screw it, I'm taking the trip. You know, you cheated on me with this hoe at work, so I'm going to go live life. And she goes on something called mudlarking, which is something I've never heard of, but apparently it's like people go through the River Thames or something that's by the River Thames in London, and they just go digging through rocks and possible sewage for little gems that they might find, like trash from the 1800s. Yeah. Does not sound like what I'd want to do on vacation, but hey, you know, to each his own. So while she's mudlarking, she finds a vial that is blue and has a little bear on it. And so she's like, hey, everybody, what is this? And she asks the guy who's leading the mudlarking, like, do you know what this is? And he kind of tells her it's probably from an apothecary. It's probably homemade. But he doesn't know exactly what it is. And he tells her to go see someone else who ends up being his daughter. And his daughter tells her the same thing, which is, don't know what it is, but I will try to figure something out. So Nella, we go backwards to Nella, and Nella meets Eliza, who she didn't know she was going to meet. She actually thought that she was going to meet a grown woman coming to her shop to get something to get rid of a husband or what have you. And as it turns out, it is a 12-year-old girl who is getting something for her mistress. Now, the interesting thing is, which I think is incredibly stupid, is Nella writes down the names, not only of the people who get the poisons from her, but she writes down the poisons themselves and who the poisons are going to be given to. I think this is the stupidest thing, because it's like, yeah, hi, find my shop, find out what I did, get me killed. It's like the best way to get caught, because she's literally writing down not only what she's doing, but what other people are doing, and who they're doing it to. And her excuse for this is that most women will just die with time and no one will ever remember them, but their names will be written down in this book and where we will remember them. Bruh, if I'm trying to commit murder, don't write my name down. Do me a favor. I don't need to be remembered. I'm trying to get away scot-free. Don't remember me. Forget you saw me. Don't write my name down. Take no pictures. Take no notes. Take the money and go. So, yeah, we meet Eliza. And Eliza is 12 years old. She was actually, I don't want to say sold, but kind of sold to like this agency, which had, okay, apparently back then, if you wanted a maid or something, you could go to an agency, like walk in the agency, and they would be like, hi, what are you looking for? Or have a look at what we have available. Like a used car sales lot. You just kind of walk around and see what you like, or you say what you're looking for, and they'll just, here you go. So the mistress of the house saw her and was like, cool, bet, I like her. So the mistress of the house, the girl thinks she's going to be working like in the kitchens or doing laundry or whatever, you know, kind of stuff. And it turns out the mistress wants her to actually learn how to read and write so that she can take diction for her, so she can send out letters and things on her behalf. Because apparently the mistress has like a shaky hand, which isn't, you know, just she has shaky hands. It's she has some sort of condition that's unnamed at the time. Probably because they don't have a name for it at that time. Remember what I said about hysteria, how that was a thing and it really isn't. So they probably just didn't have a name for what it is she had, but whatever it was, it prevented her from being able to actually write her own letters. So Eliza is the one who actually wrote the note to Nella, and she's the go-between between Nella and her mistress. And she ends up getting something I hadn't thought about. Eggs with rat poisoning in it. And I'm wondering, how did she manage to get the rat poisoning inside the eggs? Did she soak the eggs? Did she inject the eggs? How did she get rat poisoning in it? Anyway. So, yeah, the girl is like, okay, thank you for the eggs, bet, but how am I supposed to get this home without them breaking? Because I don't want this to break in my coat and kill me or some junk. And Nella's like, wow, of all the people I've ever given stuff to, this 12-year-old is the only one who's ever been intelligent enough to be like, hey, this could kill me too. Maybe I should figure out a way to transport it without it killing me too. So yeah, she ends up assisting her with that. Nella makes breakfast, ends up killing the husband of her mistress, which this isn't a spoiler because this is just a part of the, this isn't a spoiler, but because this is just one of the things that were supposed to happen. You know that the woman is a murderess, and you know that she provides things for the purpose of murder. And so if someone receives something, you know that a murder is going to occur. So this isn't any type of spoiler. So why does the book that so many people have ranted and raved, or I should say raved about, get a 2 out of 10 stars? Shouldn't it at least get a 5 or a 6 or something because everybody else likes it? So leaving my personal opinion out, in my personal opinion, the book wasn't great. There was nothing offensive or derogatory or anything like that in it, so it's not for that reason. It just wasn't great. But leaving my personal opinions out of it, analytically speaking, it wasn't a great book. So here's just some of the reasons why it was just not a great book. One, there's a lot of meandering. A lot of it. So one person will introspect for, if not an entire chapter, for the vast majority of a chapter before anything happens. There will be a lot of introspection. There will also be a lot of back moving, like just moving backwards, and for no particular reason. So the person will be doing something, like doing something at the register, doing something at the table, what have you, and all of a sudden you'll be in a flashback. And the flashback kind of loses context of what it is happening at that moment. Also, too, the characters. So here's the thing. Caroline is irritating because she's like, should I save my marriage? Should I not save my marriage? And eventually, when she has a conversation with her husband, she realizes that her life is too safe. And that's why they're both feeling this way, because life is too safe. And all I could think is, how much privilege must you have to be able to say, my life is too safe, my life is too secure, my bills are too well paid, my pantry is too well filled, my mortgage is too well on time. Like how much that rubbed me the wrong way, because a lot of people don't live safe lives. I can say I personally don't live the safest of life, just because, hand to mouth, hoping that you hold on to a job so that you can make sure that you pay bills, hoping that you can hold on to a car so you can get to the job so you can pay the bills, hoping that you can hold on to an apartment or a home so that you can hold on to the place where it's just, that irritated me, the amount of privilege that it takes to be able to say my life is too safe. Now, I know I said I wasn't going to put my personal opinion into it, but analytically speaking, most of the people who are reading these books, we read for escapism, right? We wouldn't, if we're going to get a book that is fictional, most likely we're getting it for the purpose of escapism. Not really to learn much. We may learn something, but we're trying to escape our daily life. Most people who practice escapism don't have safe lives. Most people who practice escapism don't have secure lives. I'd venture to say that a lot of people don't have safe and secure lives. And by safe and secure, I mean you could stop working today and have your bills paid for the rest of the year. Or stop working today and have someone who's going to be able to take care of you for the rest of until you start working again, if you start working again. So yeah, it was kind of tone deaf, in my personal opinion, especially for the time when it was being published. It's kind of tone deaf, like you're literally in England taking a trip. Now, mind you, I believe that this book was written pre-COVID because there weren't any precautions being taken, so I believe that the whole thing takes place pre-COVID, which is fine. There's a life before COVID, but just the whole, my life is too safe. It's too safe. It's too safe. That kind of rang as tone deaf. Also, too, the reason why the characters do the things that they do don't make any sense. So we know with Caroline, life is too safe. That's why she's doing stuff. Life is too safe. She wants to be in some way perilous. Yay. Eliza believes that she is being haunted by the dead spirit, or the spirit of her dead master, because she's on her period, because she's getting her menses for the first time. Did she tell anybody that she's bleeding? No. She just thinks, oh no, I'm being haunted. This is like the weirdest thing to me. Like, why would someone believe that their menses is the result of being haunted? And why wouldn't she mention that she's on her menses, especially to someone who creates medicines? Or just mention, hey, my stuff is bleeding. Why? Yeah, I need help. It didn't make any sense that she just imagined that she's being haunted because of that. Also, too, Nella's reasoning for becoming a poisoner made no sense. One person did one thing to her, and because of that, she's like, yes, I'm going to sell poisons to the world. All the men must die. Like, it didn't make any sense. It just didn't. Like, yes, the one thing that was done to her was bad, but it didn't make any sense for her to want to take the one thing and become a murderess because of it. Also, the suicide that takes place, without ruining the story, it made no sense. The person literally jumps off the bridge to kind of pretend to be someone else in a way, or history says that this was someone else who did it, but the someone else ends up dying anyway. So it made no sense. And then at the end of it, I think Caroline thinks she sees the ghost of people past. I was like, where did spiritism come into? Like, how did that happen? Like, we weren't talking about spirits nowhere else in this book aside from the idiot who thought that her menses was her being haunted. And now all of a sudden, it didn't make any sense. And the end of it, we don't really know what's happening. And then there's this, is she pregnant moment in the book where Caroline was, oh, I'm cramping. Or, oh, I haven't had my period in a while. And, oh, I don't want to be pregnant this way. And, oh, and then it turns out she's not pregnant, which is, once again, isn't a spoiler because she's drinking wine and stuff like that. But it's like there was no purpose. It didn't add any drama or suspense to the book to do a is she or isn't she pregnant portion of it, because it didn't help. It didn't make me care any more about Caroline and her life. It just didn't. I think there are certain parts of the book that are a bit tone deaf, not in a racial way or anything like that. I don't think there are any black people in it, but that didn't really bother me for the purpose of it was a contemporary based on 3 particular people. It wasn't like an entire story. It was just based on 3 people. You know, also this was a real irritation. The pace of the book. The pacing was very, very poor. Very poor. I believe there's about 15 chapters where you spend the entire day on February 11th. February 11th, 1781 or something like that. You spend the entire day in February 11th. About 15 or so chapters. And I don't know if it's moving minute by minute, hour by hour. I have no idea. But you spend that entire time in a day. And the book is on like 37 or 35, something like that, chapters. So you spend nearly half the book in one day and nothing is happening. Aside from a character is literally sitting in a chair introspecting. It wasn't a great book. It was not a great book. I know that some people do like it and I don't understand. I can't say why they do. And it's not even a mystery. Some people try to say that this is a mystery book, but it's not. You already know who the murderer is. She introduces herself at the beginning of the book. You already know why she commits the murders because she tells you why in the book. So it's kind of just like someone doing something in the past and someone figuring out that someone was doing something in the past, and those two things intersecting. The very end of the book made 0 sense. 0 sense. it just wasn't a great read. I'll say it like that. It's a 2-star read. It's not 1 star because it wasn't complete garbage, but it is 2-star because I definitely don't recommend it. Unless you like books that meander. If you love meandering books, books that have plots and subplots that don't exactly make sense, or that just kind of go in a circle, then this is for you. Otherwise, this isn't for anyone that I personally know. It's just not a great book. I'm sorry. Not really sorry. It just isn't. But yes, this has been a 10-minute book review. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe. Bye, Bookends.